Hey guys, this is the free response question from 2014 AP Biology free response questions. You can find past papers on College Board. I'll show you in a separate video where to find resources for more questions to practice. So question number 8 says a research team has genetically engineered a strain of fruit flies to eliminate errors during DNA replication. The team claims that this will eliminate genetic variation in the engineered flies. A second research team claims that eliminating errors during DNA replication will not entirely eliminate genetic variation in the engineered flies. Part A says to provide one piece of evidence that would indicate a new genetic variation has occurred in the engineered flies. The easiest thing to think about the appearance of new phenotypes. For example, if the flies were engineered to have red eyes and suddenly later on they start having black eyes after several generations, then we know that genetic variation has occurred. So this is a very big evidence that it has occurred. So it's literally enough to write the appearance of new phenotypes or the appearance of new genotypes, different amino acids or different sequences in general. For part B, it says to describe one mechanism that could lead to genetic variation in the engineered strain of flies. So this is also pretty straightforward. You can literally mention any mechanism that leads to genetic variation, like sexual reproduction or crossing over. And obviously that happens over here. This is an example of crossing over. It's when homologous chromosomes align and then ones that are close together basically exchange parts of DNA, or they become recombinant genes. So that's also a great reason behind genetic variation. Number 3 is random fertilization. So, random sperm will fertilize random eggs every time. So that also results in genetic variation. Number 4, you can also just talk about meiosis and how itself is a process that produces new combinations of alleles and traits. And so we mentioned crossing over, random fertilization, meiosis. You can also talk about gene flow. So basically immigration. So when these flies, fly to different countries or different regions, they will mate with different flies that will also cause genetic variation. You can also mention viral infections. So because, when the viruses infect, they insert their DNA into the genome. And you could also mention non-disjunction, and this causes difference in the chromosome numbers, in the normal chromosome numbers. Any source of mutation like that, or mutagens in general, like radiation or chemicals that induce mutations or changes in DNA. All of these factors, and there's probably more if you want to talk in details, are factors that cause genetic variation. Part C asks you to describe how genetic variation in a population contributes to the process of evolution in the population. Here, you should just talk about how the fact that without genetic variation, there's going to be no phenotypic variation, which means that there's going to be no natural selection. So when we're talking about evolution, we're talking about survival of the fittest and natural selection and stuff like that. If there is no genetic variation, there are going to be no different phenotypes, and hence not a single phenotype will be favored compared to others. So evolution will simply, not happen, and it will probably slow down the process of evolution completely. The main reason behind evolution is genetic variation. So once you take that away, you will no longer have a species that are evolved and could survive in certain environments. A great example for that is talking about, you could provide an example in your answer when you're talking about birds. So for example, we have a bird, and this bird has two phenotypes, one with a long beak and one with a short beak. The one with the longer beak could easily access seeds in narrow places, so basically it's to find nutrition or to find food. This consequently will cause the long-beaked birds to become naturally selected, and over time the short-beaked birds will probably, not fully go extinct, but their number will decrease because they're just not favored in the environment. They can't survive in certain environments where it's hard to access food without a long beak. There are a lot of examples for a lot of different species that you could mention, but this is just one for clarification. Anyways, that's all for question number 8 in this 2014 free response question for AP Bio, and I really do hope this helps.